message with you from this week's Parashat Tzav. In the coming week, we're going to celebrate the holiday of Passover, which is an exciting holiday for so many reasons, family getting together. But we probably would say that Passover is not exciting because of its food. In fact, we spend much of our week hungry because we're used to having other foods, and this week we feel somewhat deprived. That's why it's interesting to me that one of the names for Matzah is lechem oni, the bread of affliction, or the bread of the poor. We struggle all week long trying to figure out what we're going to eat, and so there's just a inkling, a hint of what it feels like to be hungry. Matzah is often referred to as the bread of affliction because it is the bread that we ate on our way out of Egypt. And in many ways, we should have really called it the bread of freedom, because it is really the first taste of freedom that we have. Even though we have already eaten it in Egypt, it is an indication of what's going to happen in the future. A colleague of mine once referred to it as the bread of anticipation, of not knowing what's going to be. That it was hurried, and therefore not being able to fully plan what's going to happen in the future. There are so many different names for matzah, because we are so full of the ambitious symbol it represents, and that is the moment of freedom. In this week's Parsha, there is a reference to Matzah. In the 6th chapter, in the 9th pasuk, it says that the korban mincha, the meal offering that was to be offered, was supposed to, in the end, be a type of matzah. V'hanoteret mimenu yochlu Aharon uvanav, matzot te'achel b'makom kadosh, b'chatzer ohel moed yochluhu. That Aaron and his sons would eat this matzah in the chatzer, the courtyard of the ohel moed. And it was an indication that there was something very holy about this food, that it had to be eaten within the temple precincts. And so the Kli Yakar offers the following: Sha'kodesh Baruch Hu lo natan lo chelko me'ishav, that God gave this portion to the priests, and therefore it was a gift from the Almighty. Yesh b'matzah tzad kedusha, there's some holiness to the food. I know that depending on what I think of the food I'm eating, that is how it will make me feel. If I feel as though I shouldn't be eating junk food because it's going to do bad things for me, I always feel somewhat guilty after I'm done eating it. But on the other hand, if I go to a vegetarian restaurant that the food is high quality and fresh and grown locally, I feel as though I've made a contribution to our world in the way that I've eaten, and I also feel better about myself. The matzah that we eat on Pesach can be a matzah in which we feel longing, in which we're continuously asking ourselves, what's next? Or it can be incredibly satisfying in the understanding that matzah represents a freedom that we will enjoy now and sometime in the future. What we eat will tend to tell us how we feel, and how we approach that food will give us a greater indication of who we are, not of the food itself. So I wish you a chag kasher v'sameach, a happy and a healthy Pesach. Pesach in which the food you eat sustains you and makes you feel as though you're making a contribution to the world and not just taking from it. Have a wonderful day.